calls if you want.
Yeah.
Do you have a
Do you have grammar and spelling for me, please? I think we're right. We are live, guys. So hello, everybody at the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. Nick and Melissa from Retribe and Howard and Karen joining us from Apex College. Really excited to have you guys as guests today. Howard and Karen, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine. Thanks, Nick. How about you, Karen?
Doing really well too. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Apex College is a place for learning just around the corner from the Elephant and Castle community. And like I said, we're really grateful that you guys are here. But maybe just so people watching can get to know you guys a little bit, Howard and Karen, you could introduce yourselves and what you guys do for Apex College. So maybe let's do, who wants to go first, Howard or Karen?
Let me go first, and I'll do a quick introduction of myself, and then Karen can speak a bit longer. So I'm Howard. I'm the co-owner and the principal at Apex College. And Karen?
I'm Karen, and I'm the student services manager at Apex College. I've been here for I think just over 3 years at this point. And I started off as student support officer, and I've been able to work myself up to student services manager.
And Howard, I know you gave yourself a really brief introduction, so we'll kind of go back to it at the beginning, where you are an accountant by trade, and now you're a principal at Apex. Well, how was that journey for you to get to where you are today?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm a professional accountant by profession. That is true. So I spent decades working for large organizations. I spent 10 years looking after a company in Germany. I spent some years in New York looking after actually what was part of Habitat, the Habitat group then, which had about 18 stores centered in and around New York. And in 2010. I gave it all up. I quit my job in Germany and came back to the UK to help to get Apex College started. So Apex College has actually been going since 2009, and we started in Croydon. We had a building in Croydon, and at that time we focused pretty much exclusively on overseas students, and we've had thousands of overseas students over the years coming through the college. And at a point, which was actually about 2014, we decided to focus exclusively on the HND course that we now run. It's a 2-year course in business. So being a professional accountant, I suppose business is something that dovetails quite neatly, as far as I'm concerned, with that and the course that we run. It's a 2-year course. It's a modular course, so over the 2 years, our students study 15 or 16 different modules, submit assignments. But the real thing is, and what really drives us, is that our mission statement states it, and we try to stick to it quite strictly. We do try to improve the lives of each student who comes to us through that course. It's a very practical course in the sense that if you come and study business, the course that we're now running, by the way, we're not only going to be teaching business going forward, but that's what we've been doing up to now. It really does improve people's lives. They have a number of options, which Karen will probably explain better than I can. But with that 2-year course, you can go on to do the 3rd year at university, so you can get your full BA degree. Studying business and the sort of modules that we teach, it doesn't pigeonhole you into something too soon. For instance, it doesn't mean you have to become an accountant because you studied business. You can go into HR, you can go into marketing. There's a whole range of different things that you can do. We have a lot of students who come to us who already have their own small business and they want to expand that business. They want to find out ways of doing it. So what we're aiming to do is to very definitely improve the lives of everybody who comes to us. Either they go to university or they've got an aspiration to start their own small business. And we think that we've been quite successful in doing that. Do you think that's fair, Karen?
Yeah, I agree.
Karen, you've been at the college for a few years. Can you tell us your journey, how you started there, and how you've got to where you are now, where you're the face of videos and you also have your own fan club?
Yeah,
That is sorry to interrupt, but that actually is true, by the way. And for anybody
Yeah.
listening, Karen seriously has her own fan club. And if we ask the students what's the main thing they've missed about college life during the lockdown period, they say Karen.
Karen,
that's very
Karen,
kind.
tell us about you.
I joined, I think it was early 2018. And I was just applying for so many jobs online. And I happened to be invited for an interview at Apex College. And I remember showing up and being surprised at how small it was, but just really, really liking the atmosphere and the people that were interviewing me at the time. And so, you know, I got the job. And it was a strange transition for me because I thought it was going to be very admin focused, and it was a natural transition because I was so involved with students. And I think overall Howard and some of the others noticed how well I got on with the students, and so slowly over the years I have become quite popular, but only because I've been quite willing to help people with their problems. And I mean, it's been part of the role anyway, but I think we're all quite genuine here. And because it's we started off with only 50 students when I joined anyway. It was very easy to get to know every student, every individual. And yeah, I guess 3 years later, here I am, and we're expanding. I'm not sure if Howard mentioned that. We're slowly trying to get more students to come in, but we still want to continue with that personalized learning, continue with that feeling of very close support, and that's something we really pride ourselves on, actually. When people do ask about the college, that's one of the main things we like to tell them, is that it's one big family, basically.
It's an interesting thing that Karen mentions, and she's absolutely right, because when Karen joined, it was not actually our choice. It was government regulations. We were capped, as a lot of colleges were at that time. We were capped at 50 students, so we couldn't recruit more than that. Now we're in the region of 175 students, and we're just about to take on more space, and we have aspirations to grow bigger. But the point is, you know, I think everybody knows, if you go to university, or when you go to university, you can sit in a very large lecture room, and basically, you know, you're a face in the crowd. You listen to the lecture, you get some notes, you get a little bit of tutorial time, and you've got to go off and basically do your own stuff. When you come to a place like us, as Karen's mentioned, and this is what the students say about us, it is like a very sort of family environment. And basically, anybody who comes to us, any student who comes to us, we aim and try to give them the support that they need as an individual. You know, if they want to come to the lectures and then they go and do their own thing because that suits them, that's absolutely fine with us. If they need extra support, they need more tutorial time, more tuition time, that's absolutely fine too. And that's exactly what we aim to provide. And I think that's this sort of small is beautiful, or smaller is beautiful concept. That is where we try to fit in. And even as we grow, we won't lose that. We'll just, well, if I can find a few more Karens, maybe I can't find anybody else quite like Karen, but if I can find, you know, something similar, we'll provide it in that way.
Do you think that, I think I know the answer, but do you think that that community or family vibe is a factor in contributing to improving the life of the students? Like, is this the holistic kind of deal? It's not just academics or business, it's the quality of the relationships that people are surrounded us and the option to have one or not?
I think it's a huge factor. I mean, I can put it in words the students tell us, because when the students are asked, they use words like family. You know, we didn't come up with that. When the inspectors come to the college and talk to the students and say, okay, what's good about Apex College, they say they treat us like family. That's the kind of words that they use. Or I can look at it like an accountant would look at it and say to you, okay, our current retention rates, and that's how many of our students stay with us over the 2-year course, in excess of 90%, 90. How many students pass the course? In excess of 90%, 90%. So, you know, whichever way I look at it, if I look at it from a sort of numbers perspective, or I look at it from the feedback that we get from students, which is at the end of the day the most important thing, that's what they tell us. So, as the principal of the college, if I've got retention and pass rates in excess of 90%, and I've got students saying very positive things to the inspectors, it's, you know, we must be doing something right.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that holds people back in general is a lack of confidence. These people want change in their lives. A lot of our students are coming here because it's a stepping stone to another goal of theirs, whether it's university or starting up a business. And so having that feeling of feeling supported and knowing that they can approach anybody at the college really makes them have that confidence and slowly start achieving their goals.
As I went through your site and I looked at the, you know, as you guys start looking mainly at adults who are trying to, you know, to better themselves. And I really admire your students. I not only admire what you guys are doing, but, you know, your students to be able to take that step, you know, and that was something that I found harder when I was younger. Was like, what steps am I going to take to better myself? Am I going to kind of just stick myself into this little groove, or am I actually going to have the courage to take a little step into going off and getting an education and then trying to learn some skills that will help me further myself in life? So I really admire your students for making that step. And then Karen, you said that, you know, you people like to come to you with, you know, expressing some of their challenges. And I'm wondering what pre-pandemic challenges were, because we can kind of talk about pandemic challenges in a minute. But as students coming in, you know, maybe foreign students coming into the country, what were some of the challenges? I'm imagining missing family is one of the biggest ones, but what were some of the other challenges that students were facing?
Well, I think some of the challenges are around the fact that they haven't been in education for a few years. And so they meet the requirements, they have the skills, but again, as I was saying earlier, they lack confidence. So I remember someone in particular, she was really, really eager to start the course, but she was so afraid of not being able to complete one assignment that her writing skills weren't up to scratch. And that was really holding her back. So again, being able to sit down with her and explain that at the end of the day, this is a course, we're here to help her. We don't expect her to be able to I don't know, give us the best assignment there was ever written. It's just not realistic. And being able to sit down with someone and explain that to them and make them feel comfortable and not feel alone, that was a big factor in helping her through her journey. So that's just one example, but I think it is just a lack of confidence in general. A lot of our students have chosen the HND route because they're afraid of going straight into a university as well, or maybe they've taken a break from their career because they've chosen to have children, or you know, something along those lines. So it really is about getting them back into the groove of things and comfortable again with education.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. You know what Karen says about so many of the students who come to us have been out of mainstream education for quite a long time, and I mean, Karen has seen it, and I've certainly seen this. You know, the first few assignments that they need to write for us, and there must be a lot of trepidation for them. And you know, I mean, if I say broadly, you know, let's say an average assignment, what they write, let's say 10, 12, 15 pages of A4, and because they've been out of main education for a long time, just approaching that, you know, again, if you go straight to university, you're probably expected to go off and do it. Well, it's completely the opposite with us, because you know, we'll take students individually through that in a very structured way. We'll help them to prepare a plan around which they can do research, if that's online research, you know, and just in terms of how to structure it, and give them as much support as we can. And I think one of the most rewarding things for us in that sense is seeing the students when they first come in for those first few assignments, because by the time they get to the end of the course, you know, they really are flying with that and doing it for themselves, aren't they, Karen?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see their transformation. From, as Howard said, it's a 2-year course. So that first term that they're with us, normally they're just really nervous about their results for the first assignment. And by the end of it, they're just so confident, so happy, and so proud of themselves as well. Normally, they want to have like a party to celebrate that they've been able to get through the whole thing. So it really is nice to see that transformation.
It's almost like the complete opposite of what you like a university experience sometimes, where it's like competition and it's you against all other students everywhere forever. And it's like the best, the top A's perform and go on and success and all that stuff. It feels like it's kind of flipping that narrative a bit. It's like, why can't we just all do it together for the betterment of all of us going forward? Feels like.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it is a group journey in a way. The way our courses run, it's the same group of students together throughout the 2 years. I think in universities you have different courses, and so you don't always stick with the same people for the whole duration. Whereas here you're with the same class. Normally you'll have the same teachers, obviously depending on what they specialize in, but again, it creates this feeling of wanting to achieve this together, everybody together, and we really are rooting for them as well. So I think they feel that too.
That's so beautiful, Nick. I know you had a follow-up, but I have a question around the how you hire. I don't know if you're allowed to answer this, but the hiring process with staff and like teachers, because it seems like there must be some sort of alignment in kind of contributing to the atmosphere. Is there anything you can speak to around what you're looking for?
Yeah. We you know, we can yeah, we can speak about that, of course. I said, look, no question is off limits. It's fine. It's like the Meghan Markle interview. You know, no question is off limits.
Over it, yeah.
Well, almost no question. All of the teachers that we employ have a relevant degree, and they have considerable experience of teaching this subject. So they have to have that as a prerequisite. Generally speaking, they've got additional teaching qualifications that they've attained, you know, so whatever that is. But they've normally, because they're serious about teaching, they've gone through a process of getting extra qualifications. I mean, look, I don't mind admitting that student satisfaction is absolutely the #1 priority. And I've been asked in the past, you know, well, what do you mean by that? Oh, I can tell you what I mean, and this doesn't apply to anybody who's working at the college right now. But if a group of students come to me and says, you know, listen, we're really not getting what we need to get out of a particular lecturer, you know, for whatever reason, that this lecturer is just not explaining it in our way, we're just not getting it, we're not understanding. My first priority is student satisfaction, and we, as a college, we do and have done in the past, we will do something about that. If that means changing their lecturer, making adjustments, that's what we will do, because we are focused on student satisfaction.
I'm interested to know how education is evolving. You know, like when we went to school and high school and then university, Melissa alluded to this idea of competition. And it was always like, there was always competition about who could get the best grades. And it was always like, you're always being put in a position, you know, and I was always kind of a little bit below average. I wasn't a very good student.
Oh, Nick, I'm sure you're being modest, I'm sure.
No, I had my father was a brilliant man, but I had a really hard time picking up reading, you know, and I got pegged down a lot, and I had teachers almost not caught. I had a teacher put me in a closet once because I couldn't read, and it created, you know, it created a lot of, you know, I'm dumb kind of thing. And I'm interested to know how you guys are seeing how the journey of education from, you know, the scoring systems that they've had, you know, like students at a very young age being kind of pigeonholed into, the best and the average and the not so bright, and then the people that have other kind of maybe learning difficulties, where it's like, you know, education is still based around kind of a competition rather than, it seems like what you guys are doing, which is just a group of people challenging one another to elevate themselves and become, like you said, Howard, just better people.
Well, I think
you,
Karen. Sorry to interrupt you. I think Karen probably got it right when she talked about, you know, a collective and a group of people, sort of trying to get to the end of the journey together. I think that's basically what it is. I totally understand what you mean about the competitive aspect. I'm not entirely sure how they do them these days, but to put it into context, when I took my professional accountancy examinations, and maybe it's the same thing today, it wasn't a case that if everybody got more than 50%, everybody passed, or if everybody got more than 60%, everybody passed. Actually, the way it was done then, they put all the marks onto a graph. Yeah, so they put the sort of distribution of results onto a graph, and then they decided how many people they wanted to pass. So if it was 30% or 40% of the people who took the exam, drew a line on the graph, and then that became the pass mark. So one year the pass mark might have been 50%. If it was a easier exam, the next time it might have been 70%. Yeah. So I totally understand what you mean about the competitive aspect of education, but we are the absolute opposite of that. Our aim as a college is specifically to get 100% of the students through that course with the certificate in their hand. And we'll almost do whatever it takes, you know, to get 100% through, which comes back to Karen's point about, you know, the sort of the group moving as a group. And that's really how it is, isn't it, Karen?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot more focus now in general over on careers advice, really good careers advice, because everybody is different. Not everybody has the same abilities, and we all have different skills, and we're good at one thing and maybe not another thing. So putting more focus on providing really good impartial careers advice is really important to making somebody feel like they can still achieve their goals, and giving that push and making someone believe in themselves and still have realistic expectations. Of course, you don't want to chase a dream that's never going to be possible, but I think the government has done a lot, especially for primary and further education. And of course, within higher education, I provide careers advice. We have a team of staff members who are able to also, give general advice. And so I think that's really important. That's something I'm quite passionate about as well, making sure our students know that regardless of their past, that they're still able to push forward.
Okay, Nick, you go. I can see your mouth.
No, I think that it was this around this for people who are watching this, who might be thinking about, you know, getting back into higher education, and again, just trying to do something, because I know every time I took an action to try to do this, to try to do a business course or something positive happened in my life. And the word that you said that people struggle with, Karen, is confidence. And it's really nice to know that you guys at Apex are enabling people to come in here who with maybe low confidence or so low self-esteem to actually feel part of a community, because we know with the work that we do, community is key, you know. And when you have a community around you that supports you and challenges you, there's nothing that you can't do. So I'm really hopeful that somebody might be watching this in the Elephant and Castle community and say, hey, I'm gonna go check out what those guys do down there, because it doesn't seem that scary then, you know, how you guys speak about education and your courses that you do. So that's pretty cool.
I think overall, I mean, if you look at it over the 2 years, people shouldn't be scared by, you know, as I say, most of the students who come to us have been out of mainstream education for quite a long time. I mean, quite possibly, and again, Karen knows better than I do, probably most of the students who come to us have never had to sit down and write, you know, a 10 or 12 page assignment. And that in itself is one of the challenges for us to get them through the course and for them to challenge themselves, you know. And it is a journey. They start off with some trepidation and a little bit of lack of confidence, quite possibly. They get to the end of the 2 years and they realize what they've achieved, and more to the point, what they can do with that qualification. You know, no one's ever going to take it away from you. It's a certificate. It's a definite qualification. No one can take it away from you. No one can deny that you've earned it and achieved it. And you can go on and use it to do something positive, whatever that thing is you want to do.
And I think in general, a lot of students in general don't actually realize how much they can take the information that they've learned and use that in their personal lives as well. You know, sometimes we fall into this trap of just trying to pass a test and not actually taking in that information. And I think our course, we have our lecturers, they have experience in the business world as well. So it's not just a matter of trying to pass an assignment and get a certificate and then tick that off of your bucket list. It really is about learning and being able to put that into practice, what they've learned in the classroom. So, I mean, I really want to encourage anybody out there watching this, anybody who feels like they're lacking confidence, or maybe they're unsure, or with COVID, you know, maybe they're having to relook at their lives and their path. I really do think this is a good option for them.
It feels like it's the idea of transferable skills, right? And you're not just in there to learn, like you said, or you're not just in there to pass a test and get a box ticked. You're there to actually learn a skill or learn something about yourself, and even like how you receive information, right? Because I think so much, like, we have so many different learning styles too. Like, I know for me, like, I could never pass a multiple choice question, because I could explain to myself, or I could logically figure out why every question could be true on a multiple choice. So none of it made sense for me. So I would always fail these things, but I knew all the information. Anyway, my little ramble is around the different ways we see pass or smart, or like how we measure smartness or capabilities or abilities, right? With these tests that don't really reflect the knowing or the learning we've done. So I appreciate that it's like just transfer, you're just learning things about how you receive, and think skills you can transfer in other areas of your life, not just about passing a test, which I think is so important for so many people. So that was my thing. But now my question is, Karen, what has been your kind of experience with the pandemic the last year, and especially for your role as really interacting with students and kind of building that community? How have you noticed the change when everything had to become virtual and distant stuff? Can you speak a bit to that?
It's been quite challenging, if I'm honest, because there's nothing quite like being able to sit in front of somebody else and guide them or speak to them. And so having to, we all worked very hard to move our lessons onto an online platform. But I think we all very quickly realized that it's not just enough to teach online. You can go on YouTube and find a video and learn from that. It's about making sure that we keep in contact with students in other ways too. So between, I think at the time we were around 3 admin staff, and between the 3 of us, we would call students weekly, making sure that they were okay. We were working from home at that time, so students actually had access to our personal numbers, which is rare, but we felt it worked because it meant that they can contact us at any time. And I think they really liked that too, knowing that they could call us at any moment. And they didn't always. Some of them were absolutely fine, and actually some of them enjoyed being able to study online. But other people sometimes just wanted to make sure that they weren't forgotten about. And so they'd give us a call, maybe ask a quick question, and that really comforted them, I think. I think now we've gotten into that routine now. We're actually working, although the students continue to have online lessons, we're here at the college. So they can call the college up If there is an emergency, they know where to find us. And again, we continue to maintain that contact with them. We also have tutorial sessions, and they don't always cover academic or their subject. Sometimes it's about, hey, everybody, how's everyone doing? What's up? And they really, really enjoy that. And sometimes it's just 10 minutes at the beginning, catching up with each other, and then we'll move on to something else. But I think they've really appreciated that.
I'm interested to know both of your points of view on how do you think education is going to evolve coming out of this pandemic, knowing that this probably isn't the last pandemic that we're going to have like this. And I know a lot of businesses in and around the city and in the West End, they're gauging how their new office environment is going to look like. It's going to, they talk about the hybrid 2 or 3 days at home, 2 or 3 days at the office. Now, knowing that community is so important, and also knowing that I know some people who are teachers who've been teaching online, and they just have no way of checking whether or not students are in the virtual meeting or not. Some people will just put their camera off because they're in their pajamas or something, and they won't engage at all, or they might not even be in the room. So, but there's no way of really kind of checking on how students are engaging or learning via, because it's been such a short space of time. But do you think the education will go down a hybrid route of so many days in a college and so many days at home, or will it be more important to get students back to a campus?
Well, personally, sorry, I'll go first. I mean, I think from my perspective, the term that we're currently in, we had originally planned to do what we call blended learning, which means basically some online lectures, but plus tutorial time at the college, to reinforce the online lectures. And then as things turned out, we were effectively prohibited by regulations from doing that. So we were instructed to carry on with online teaching for the time being. I mean, I think for us, and I think if you look across the piece at university students' comments about their online only lectures, it seems to me like there's a fair degree of dissatisfaction for university students about only having online lectures, because they don't think that they're getting good value for money. And quite frankly, I can well understand that. Picking up from Karen's point, of course you can go onto YouTube, and find videos. Which will probably teach you pretty much the same thing, without paying all that money per year. I think when things start getting back to normal, for us to continue to maximize the benefits for all of our students, I think it's imperative that we do get back to some sort of normality, that we do maximize face-to-face teaching time. I mean, certainly from our perspective, and to be honest with you, I think for universities too, I think it's got to get back to that. I totally understand what you're saying, Nick, about people working from home. Big organizations have been asking their staff how many days they want to work from home, how many days they want to come into the office. Very much aware of that. But I don't think that model is never going to really work for us. Not in the long term.
Yeah, and I think about the moments where, for example, when you're calling a company up and you just want to speak to someone, and they'll direct you to the website, or they'll direct you to a chat or something, and you just want to speak to someone. You just want to speak to someone face to face or over the phone. So I think something that I'm realizing is actually the importance of being able to have in-classroom learning. As Howard said, we are going to have a blended learning approach. So some lessons will be online, but students will also be required to come in. But I don't think, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think anything will truly be able to replace the classroom learning, at least in education. And I think a lot of companies are able to successfully move everything online. But I don't think that's necessarily the best solution for everybody.
No, we definitely need that human contact. And maybe, yes, if you have got thousands of students, perhaps you have to structure yourself and organize yourself in a different way. But we don't have that. We are this sort of family feel. And Just the same with every family has missed seeing family members through the lockdown period, and I think probably everybody can relate to that. I certainly can, and that's what the students tell us. Having said that, I mean, I've got to be honest. The feedback that we've had from the students about the online learning that we've been able to deliver for them has been incredibly positive. We got it set up very quickly, thanks to the effort of Karen. And it wasn't a case of us saying to each student, okay, here's a link, click on the link and you can get your online lectures. We didn't approach it that way at all. We did it I didn't, but Karen did. Karen organized it very much on a student by student basis. So we went to each student as an individual and took them through the steps of how to get online, exactly what to do, make sure they have the right equipment, so that they were all treated as individuals like that, not just a text message sent out to everybody, which has been another complaint, I think, from university students, that they've had very little communication from the universities on the transition from normal learning to online learning. So Karen and her team, they went through all of these steps with each individual student to make sure that they were set up, that they were happy. And because of that, we didn't actually, to be honest, we didn't have too many issues about getting people online, and we had very positive feedback about that online experience. And that's what they have fed back to the people who inspect us. And you can probably confirm that, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, we set up one-to-one sessions, and then again, we held small group sessions to make sure that by the time classes began again, that everybody was able to get themselves online and have kind of a basic online etiquette, turn your microphone off, that kind of stuff. And that made them comfortable, and it was a lot less scary for them as well. And at the end of the day, our students didn't apply for an online course. They applied for what we had promised them, which was small class setting. And so, I mean, it was probably a shock for them when we told them that they'd have to study for the rest of the term online. But again, we've been able to adapt and they've been happy. They'd love to come back and be able to see each other, but they've been fine. They've been really doing well on online learning.
And just picking up on your attendance point, I mean, yes, we do have to monitor attendance because we're required to do that by the government. And I know we haven't talked about it specifically, but all of the students who come to us, they all come with student finance facilities. So it's like going to university. They get maintenance grants, they get maintenance loans, they get tuition fee loans. And, and because of that, because it's public money that finances the student's education, we are, as part of what we do, we are required to monitor attendance. And actually the online attendance has been phenomenally good, I have to say.
Yeah, I actually think there's more people who join our online lessons than, I mean, there's been an improvement in attendance, let's just put it that way. But you did mention about making sure, how do we know that people are actually paying attention and they've not just turned their cameras off and their microphones off? I guess there's never a real way of finding out, but our lecturers are very good at keeping students engaged. There'll be times where they'll call somebody out and not in a nasty way, but just kind of in a fun way, paying attention. You know, they're really, really good at keeping our learners engaged online, and they've become so comfortable with it that they'll raise their hand and ask a question. They'll give their opinions. It really has been quite interactive.
I'm interested to know, you've gone from 50 to 175 students in the last few years, and it seems that the success of what you guys have is like community and connection and people being able to get to know one another. But I suppose you have to make sure that you're not victims of your own success. If you grew too big, Howard, what would your plans be? Would you have different size like campuses? Would you try to keep that structure to maybe around 150 students per space, or
Yeah.
would you kind of change?
No, very, very much so. Excuse me. Very much so. We have actually been looking at developing another campus in another UK city. We've been held up by that simply because of the pandemic. But we did have a plan in place to do that, so that's exactly the sort of model that we would have adopted, so that we would have, when we reach what we consider to be the maximum size where we are at Elephant and Castle, we don't want to grow to thousands, specifically because if we did, we would lose the sort of advantage that we've currently got and things that we're able to do. So the logical thing, yes, is to go to another city and basically do exactly the same as we have done in Elephant and Castle. To start off small, probably with, if I say a handful of students, and then again, try to grow it from that, but keeping very much the same model, the same, if I say family model, I'm just going to use it so that we know what we're talking about, the same sort of family model, where the guys there very much focus on each individual student. That's what's important to us. That's what our mission statement is all about, individual students maximizing their opportunities. Yes, I'm interested in the numbers, because I'm interested in 100% of students staying with us for 2 years and 100% getting the certificate. But within that means that we focus on each one of them as an individual.
Mm-hmm. You have to figure out a way to clone Karen as well.
Well, I know I said to you, I don't know if I've said to you while we've been talking here, I know I said to you before we started, but that's what the students say. What's the thing that they've missed most about college life? They tend to turn around and say Karen. So Karen has her own flourishing fan club, and we are acutely aware of that. And yes, you're right. I either clone Karen or I have her traveling around the country, splitting up her time in different sites.
I mean, this is all very flattering, but it really is a team effort. And I think it's because they know my name very well, and I'm kind of the first person that they get to know. But really, it is a team effort. And I think that when they say that they really like me, I think it's their way of saying that they love Apex College in general.
Well, it's good to be modest, but as I said, Karen, I think for me, Karen sort of presents the face of the sort of people that we want there, who actually really care quite deeply about what happens to each individual student, and that, I guess, that's the point.
Karen, can I ask a follow-up question? How do you take care of your own self when you're kind of the center point for a lot of people's kind of not stability, but centering, and like you're the focal point of Apex, and you have this thing, you and your team. How have you and your team kind of figured out, maybe you haven't, but ways where you can come back and center yourself and regroup and take breaths? So my question is, how do you take care of yourself and your team? How have you learned ways during all this growth and pandemic stuff?
I think it's about giving ourselves time. If a lot is going on, then it's okay to ask the student to come back a little bit later. And their understanding of that. We are the kind of team that like to deal with things straight away. So if somebody approaches us, for the most part, we give them answers straight away and we deal with their requests. But they're also very understanding, and we kind of build that respect where they are also able to take a no when that needs to be the answer, and because they form that relationship with all of us, they're not offended by it. They'll come back in 10 minutes time or an hour's time, or maybe once their class is finished. So it can be hard at times when they're all looking for me at once, but I think it's part of the role. And I'm a people person, so it doesn't bother me so much. But I think in general, yeah, it's being able to say no at times.
We always say to all the students, that I guess in many ways I'm the final port of call. I say to all the students at the induction, if the guys in the college can't fix something for you, if you feel that they can't fix it, you can always come to me, and I will do my best. And they often have my personal number as well. Sometimes the students call me up, not because they've got any issue, but I can tell you the number of times that students have said, oh, I approached Karen or I approached one of her team and they can't fix something for me. The number of times is 0. I have never had a student who's come and said that to me. So I guess in many ways, that's sort of the biggest compliment that I can pay to Karen, because no one ever comes, because it's always dealt with before it gets to me.
Mm-hmm.
As we come to the end of our time, I'm wondering if you, either one of you, maybe have 1 or 2 examples, some success stories that really kind of tweak your hearts, of people who've been through the college and that completed the course and gone on to perhaps start businesses or go on to a university level. Do you have some kind of stories that you'd like to share with us, for some people that you'd like to mention?
Well, I mean, one guy that sticks out in my mind, he'll sort of remain nameless. I mean, he is a musician, and he had sort of a quite interesting career, traveling across Europe, playing in gigs and doing all sorts of stuff. And he was still very interested in the music business. He also had a lingerie business, and he wanted to come on the course to sort of find ways of growing the lingerie business and kind of combining it with the music business. He's a really interesting character, and I think he got a lot out of the course. He had a lot of musical hits. I haven't been in contact with him recently. I hope his lingerie business is growing and flourishing. But you know, he made a sort of he was a colourful character, and he made a deep impression on a lot of people in the course.
And I can think of a student who started, I think it was in 2018, decided to study business because she had been unsuccessful in a previous business venture. And I discovered recently that after the course, she had the confidence to open up her own restaurant. So she recently opened a restaurant during a pandemic. And it's going quite well, and it's a really, really big, popular African Ghanaian restaurant. So I remember meeting her at the beginning, and she was so shy and she had so many questions. But by the end of the course, she was so confident and so determined to try again, and she did, and it's going well so far.
Beautiful.
What a nice way to end this chat. Howard and Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. Please feel free to send me any links or any contact details that you would like. If anybody who has heard this and is interested in talking to Apex College about perhaps furthering their education or looking at opening a business in the future, get in touch with Howard and Karen. We'll put their details in the Facebook feed.
Yeah, we'd
Thanks,
be
guys.
delighted to hear from anybody. And thank you, Nick and Melissa, very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks everybody at the What's on a Lovely Castle Facebook page. This Thursday, me and Michelle are going to be leading one of the workshops on Thursday at 11 a.m. We'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Bye.